A reaffirmation agreement is a contract you do in a bankruptcy after you file the case. It allows you to keep a contract that you had prior to filing the case, such as a car or a house or a refrigerator, something like that. And what happens is you sign this and the creditor signs it, that it has to be filed with the court. Once it's filed with the court, you can change your mind within 60 days afterwards if you decide that you don't want to do it anymore. And the reaffirmation agreement reinstates the contract. Most of the time the creditor won't make any changes. Occasionally if they do, that could be a really good thing for you, like if they reduce the balance, the principal, the payment, something like that. Most of the time they won't do that. Most of the time it just benefits the creditor, because the creditor, after your bankruptcy is over, say 6 months from now, you can't pay for the car anymore. They take the car back when you can't pay for it, and then they sue you for a deficiency balance if you've signed a reaffirmation agreement. If you haven't signed one, they only get the car. That's it. Just so we're clear, you can keep the house, you can keep the car, as long as you make the required payments. If you do not do a reaffirmation agreement, you can still keep the house, you can still keep the car. But, especially with the car, if you get behind in the payments, they take the car back. And get behind the payments when you don't have a reaffirmation agreement means if you're a day late, if you're $1 short, they could be repossessing the car before you realize it even happened. You cannot be a day late, you cannot be $1 short. The thing you really want to do is pay a few bucks over and a few days early, because there's no grace period anymore. If you don't sign a reaffirmation agreement, no grace period. So that's the main thing. Never miss a payment, never go behind, never go short on a car if you don't have a reaffirmation agreement in place. If you do, you have the grace period. You can contact them and say, hey, I'm having a problem. Please help me out. Now, they may not want to help you out because you did file a bankruptcy. They'll think you're a higher risk. But if they want to keep good paper and you have signed a reaffirmation agreement, then you have a good valid contract with them. They may want to put some value into that and help you out. But typically, the most important part of that is that you do have a grace period. Now, if you do get behind, if you're gonna get behind, and 6 months from now you realize, oh shoot, I'm getting behind, and you don't have that grace period, it's okay. You just let them have the car. They'll have to find something else to drive. But they won't be able to sue you. If you do have a reaffirmation agreement and you have the grace period, better start selling things, because if you don't keep that car payment up, they'll eventually come and get it, and then they're going to sue you. So if you got to sell furniture at that point, if you got to put a lawnmower in your trunk and go mow lawns, do it, because you're going to have to, and that's how that works. So the trouble is the economy getting better or worse? Are you going to keep the job that you have? Is it really that secure? These are the kind of questions you have to ask yourself. I don't have a crystal ball. Things get better and then they get worse, and then they get better and then they get worse, and that's just kind of how it goes. And of course, you're not my client unless you've actually come in, signed a retainer, and become my client. And that means this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Also, I'm only licensed in California. If you're not in California, don't listen to me. Call somebody local. And if you are in California and you definitely need an attorney and you need actual legal advice, don't listen to me. Call an actual attorney in your area and get the actual advice that you need. And so, good luck. A reaffirmation agreement on a mortgage, however, is a little bit different, because if you can't pay for the house, they're going to have to foreclose the house, whether you've signed a reaffirmation agreement or you haven't signed a reaffirmation agreement. If you haven't signed a reaffirmation agreement on a house, it's going to show up on your credit as bad credit. If you do sign the reaffirmation agreement on the house, then it's going to show up on your credit as good credit, but only if you've made the payments on time. This is also true for cars. It's going to be the same either way. It'll only show up as good credit if you've signed a reaffirmation agreement, but also only if you keep a good credit record after your bankruptcy is over. So if you don't sign a reaffirmation agreement on the house and eventually you can't pay for it and they have to foreclose, there's no deficiency balance anyway. There's no suing you when it's over. They only get the house either way. So a reaffirmation agreement on a mortgage is a good idea. Whereas on a car, it could be a very bad idea if you can't pay for it, because when they sue you afterwards, they can get the car and the money. So here's the straight shooting on a mortgage reaffirmation agreement. Getting the mortgage company to send the reaffirmation agreement to your attorney is like pulling teeth. It is such a pain in the butt. You contact them and say, please send the reaffirmation agreement to my attorney. This is what happened to me. They sent a loss mitigation letter with an application to do a loan modification. They then told my client, we sent the reaffirmation agreement to your attorney. Oh, well, they said they sent the reaffirmation agreement. Well, no, they didn't. So we contacted them again, said, please send the reaffirmation agreement. They sent another loss mitigation letter with another loan modification application. They told my client, of course, that they had sent the reaffirmation agreement. And so we contacted them again, said, please send a reaffirmation agreement to both of us. They sent us each a loss mitigation letter with a loan modification application. And that was when my client finally understood that these clowns had no idea what they were doing. And anyway, so that's the weirdness about doing a reaffirmation agreement on a mortgage. Some of the mortgage companies actually send them automatically without having to be asked. Most of them have to be asked, and a bunch of the ones that do have to be asked play this stupid game with the loan modification, loss mitigation letter. Anyway, that's what happens. And again, disclaimer, I'm not your lawyer. And if you want me to be, you'll have to actually call me and be local. And so otherwise, this is for educational purposes and entertainment, and it might help your golf game.